Hi sweet potatoes, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to tell you about the time my father was kidnapped. Yes, kidnapped. Real story, of course. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vera Ezimora. If you are new here, I am a writer, a content creator, a speaker, a podcaster. I call my tribe my sweet potatoes. So if you're not already one, please, I'm considering you a sweet potato today. If you're watching this video, you are a sweet potato. So welcome. Let's get into it. Woo! So, this story started on a cool Tuesday evening in October 2024. It happened in Nigeria. For those who are just seeing me for the first time, I'm Nigerian, specifically Igbo from Anambra. So it was a Tuesday in October 2024. I went to church. I am on the social media team in church, no surprises. And we had a meeting that evening. And so I went. My phone stays on vibrate 24/7. So when I got to church, I went with my daughter, excuse me. I went with my daughter at Verastic, and when we got in, I was happy and cheery as usual, and I sat down ready to start the meeting, but I wanted to check my phone to make sure I hadn't missed any messages while I was driving, because like I said, my phone stays on vibrate 24/7. So that was when I checked, and a cousin of mine had sent me a message on WhatsApp, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I opened the message, and he told me my father had been kidnapped. I had to read that message over and over because I'm thinking, I'm sorry, what? You know, Nigeria has had a security problem for years now. And I've heard many horror stories, or heard and read them. But of course, I didn't think I would experience that, right? Backstory, by the way, my mother is late now, but my parents, or we all as a family, when we lived in Nigeria, we lived in the north. We lived in Jos, Plateau State. I've been here in the United States for over 2 decades now, but my parents eventually left Jos and headed for the east, and they left Jos because of insecurity, because of the whole Boko Haram thing. They're like, oh, you know, we're getting threats every day about Boko Haram coming to do this, that, and the other, so we're gonna head east where it's safer. Both of my parents are medical doctors, or my dad is and my mom was medical doctors. So they headed back east. So like I was saying, I was in church when the message came, or at least when I saw the message, and I would describe it as my heart falling out of it. Felt like, no, not even, it felt like my life fell out of me. You know, like my spirit left me for a few seconds. I was dazed, like I was confused reading this message. I was still sitting down at my chair looking at my phone. I hadn't even reacted because I didn't know. Let me read you a couple of lines from this message that my cousin sent me. This was October 8th, 2024. He says, "We're in pains now. Your dad was kidnapped this evening around 8 p.m. So far, in front of the church. So far, we haven't heard anything from the abductors. Be strong. Nothing will happen to him. I believe it's probably just money they want." This is the laughter of someone who was going slightly insane. I was losing my mind when I read this message. And it was 5:48 p.m. when he sent it. And when I called him, I can't really see when I called him. Okay. But I know that my social media meetings are at 6 p.m. So I got there around 6, maybe a few minutes past 6. So I called him maybe like 20 minutes after he sent me the message, and he didn't pick up. Of course, it was already late in Nigeria, because 5:48 when he sent it would have been 11:48 p.m. Niger time. And it was 5:48 p.m. for me. And I was still sitting down on that chair, holding my phone, just looking at, reading the message over and over and over. And one of my pastor's wives, my leader in the social media, Miss Charmaine. Hi, Miss Charmaine. Miss Charmaine stood by my left hand side and she put her right hand on my shoulder. She was addressing the whole group, telling us whatever it was. She was telling us something that had to do with the point of the meeting. And she had her right hand on my shoulder and she kept doing this. Although I hadn't said anything yet, but she could see the distress on my face. I hadn't said, oh, my dad got killed. Like I said, I was losing my mind. That's what it felt like. So when she was done speaking, she whispered, are you okay? Are you okay? And I shook my head, no. I had a Verastic with me. I told her, stay here. I got to step out. So I don't remember if I told Miss Charmaine right there or if I just stepped out and I made some calls. My voice was shaky. I think I was physically trembling because, again, this is not news you expect to receive. And it's not like if I was in Nigeria, I could have marched into wherever they took him to and rescued him. But there is something about being geographically close, you know, to your loved one. So the fact that my father was all the way in Nigeria and I'm all the way here, like even if I jumped on a plane at that very second, it would take me at least 12 hours to get to where I was going, you know? So I was trembling. I'm making calls. My cousin isn't calling me back. Meanwhile, we're in a family group. I and my Ezimora cousins were in a group. And I had seen that there was a conversation about something happening, but it was deleted. So all I'm seeing is the responses, people say, no, that's terrible. So I didn't know what they were talking about. And now that my cousin sent me this message, his name is Ifani. Now that Ifani sent me this message, I'm like, what the heck is going on? And Ifani is not picking up the phone. He's going straight to, not voicemail, but it's not that thing that comes on, the MTN thing that says the number you're calling is switched off. That's what I kept getting. So I'm in serious panic mode because hey, Chinekena. Anyways, I did speak to Ifani eventually around 1 a.m. my time, which is when he woke up. That would have been around 7 a.m. his time. Yeah, because this was winter. Or maybe not, 6 or 7 a.m. his time. I did not sleep. As you can imagine, I didn't sleep. My aunt, my mom's sister, came over to my house that night. She slept in my house. Fumi came to church to meet me because I was pacing. My pastor, actually pastors, it was two of them, the pastor, everybody came out, they prayed with me. I was weeping because what do you mean my father was kidnapped? Like that, what do you mean he was kidnapped? So I spoke to Ifani around 1 in the morning and I said, what are you talking about? How do you know he was kidnapped? And Ifani told me that somebody called him to say, hey, we just saw your uncle being kidnapped. So Ifani didn't know anything more than what the person told him. So I was like, okay, so what do we do? And you know, the thing with Nigeria, I love Nigeria, but my God, there is no order. In a sane society, you know, you maybe call 911. In a sane society, why are they even kidnapping somebody? But call 911. This one, no. We can't call the police because you don't know who has him or why they have him and if the police is involved. So like, what do? We wait. They're like, yeah, usually these kidnappers, you got to give them like 24 to 48 hours, which in and of itself was maddening. What do you mean we give them time? So we gave them time. We waited. It's giving me goosebumps thinking about it. So we waited until they, at their convenience, decided to reach out. They did not reach out to me. They reached out to somebody else and asked for 50 million naira. I don't know how much 50 million naira is off the top of my head. I'm gonna use the tap app that I use. Let me see. So in naira, 50 million. I don't know if you can see this. That is about $32,000. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. Who has $32,000 that they are keeping and just waiting to use as ransom? I mean, I know some people do. I didn't have $32,000 waiting to give up as ransom. So if I say that I was freaking out, that would be a gross understatement, because we've all heard stories of what kidnappers do. We've all heard stories of them getting the money and still unaliving your person, or they don't even want money. Maybe somebody paid them to do this, and I had all kinds of thoughts running through my mind. I'm thinking, God, I lost my mom in 2022. I can't. I'm not supposed to be crying. I can't go through this. I just can't. And it would have been the most gruesome way, even, So my mind, when you're going through this, the devil comes and he tells you all the things, all these intrusive thoughts taking over my mind. I'm not sleeping. Like, what do we have to pay $32,000 now? And my cousins are like, oh, don't worry, we'll negotiate. This whole thing is crazy to me, that you have to beg. Like, who gave them the rights to do this? I know maybe I'm speaking like an American person. The American in me is coming out. I'm talking about rights. I know the kidnappers, and I'm like, you are who? So it was about, this happened on a Tuesday, like I said, and then they called, I believe, Thursday. So now is negotiate, not with me, but I had help. I had my cousins. One thing about my dad is that he's quite loved. So his nieces and his nephews, my cousins in Nigeria and out of Nigeria, they really rallied round. Everybody trying to, like, okay, wasn't it? What are we doing? And of course, the people on ground. And I had, the tall, dark, and handsome man. I mentioned him in another video. He really stepped up. In fact, at some point, he's like, don't worry, I got it. You don't bother talking. I will be the one talking with your cousins. So he was the one talking to my cousins. I mean, I was still talking to them, but I was so distraught. When I say, it's not like my dad it's not like he was ill in the hospital and we're praying and we're reaching out to the doctors like, hey, how is he doing? He is somewhere that we did not know. And the person who relayed the news to my cousin said it was more than one kidnapper, that it was several, and they had guns. So I'm thinking to myself, these people have my dad. They have guns. I don't know how they're treating him. I don't know if he's eating. I don't know how he's faring. At some point, I don't remember the day, my cousins did get to speak to my dad because the kidnapper was called, and they let him talk to him, and they had the audacity to tell my cousins, don't worry, we're taking care of him. And they negotiated and negotiated and they negotiated the price. until an amount was agreed upon that was they paid. They had to take the cash. The kidnappers told them where to meet them, which, as I was told later, was actually just a few kilometers away from a police station. So I don't know. I don't know if the police station, like, I don't understand how Nigeria works. Yes, I've spent most of my life in America, but even the time that I did spend in Nigeria, I can't say I understand this country. I love it. I love the country, but so they paid the ransom. I believe it was on a Saturday. They took him Tuesday, paid it on a Saturday. He wasn't released that Saturday. I did not sleep that Saturday because now I'm thinking, okay, you have the money. Why aren't you letting him go? And of course, you can't call them. You just wait. And early hours of Sunday, I left my phone. You know, remember I said my phone stays on vibrate. I left my phone on. I turned the ringer on because I didn't want to miss a call. I didn't want to miss a message. So I don't want to cry. I was waiting for the call that he was okay. Meanwhile, these intrusive thoughts are still in my head because I'm like, what if they do something to him and they like dump the body somewhere, you know? So I'm waiting to get the call. And then eventually one of my cousins called and he said, my dad just called, or maybe it was the kidnappers that called. I don't even know who called, but somebody called and said that they were taking him to drop him off. And I kept asking him, you spoke to him? He said, yes, I spoke to him. So now I'm really awake and I'm waiting. And my cousin called back and said they just spoke to my dad. Then my dad said he was dropped off and he told them where to come pick him up. So I was like, how did you get to speak to him? He said my dad called with his phone. So I called my dad. And when I heard his voice, he picked up when I heard his voice. Oh my God. I just broke down. And you know, my dad too started crying. And I've never heard this man cry before. He's been my dad all of my life. I've never seen or heard this man cry. And he too burst out crying. And I'm just asking him, like, are you okay? And he says, yeah, I'm fine. I'm walking. They just dropped me off in a random place on the road. So he had to call my cousins to come pick him up. And eventually my cousins came. They picked him up. They took him home. And I was relieved. Yeah, I mean, that's, how can I say, relief doesn't begin to explain how I felt. But also fear. Like, what if they come back? Like, what if they're not done, you know? Of course I spoke to my dad and he told me how it happened. He's driving in the evening when their car overtook him. A bunch of boys came out of the car with guns and they're like saying, yes, he's the one. So this was not a random kidnap. It was targeted. I don't know why. I don't know if somebody in his circle, you know, gave him, I don't know. And they took him, and he said the whole time they were inside the bush, somewhere in the bush. They blindfolded him. Thankfully they did not like hurt him, although they did hit him with the gun, the butt of the gun, and he did have a little wound on his head, but for the most part he was okay. He told me that when they let him go, they told him, don't worry, you've paid your dues now, so you're fine. And as if that was not bad enough, they told him, if anybody looks for your trouble, you let us know. We'll come and kidnap the person for you. They didn't give him their numbers, so I don't know how he was going to let them know. But the kind of prayers I was firing, I told God, if this ends well, that I would testify, I would tell this story. And like I said, this was since October. And by the way, he was kidnapped about 2-3 weeks before his chieftaincy title ceremony. So perhaps that celebration put some unwanted attention on him. I don't know. I'm really grateful that the story did not end differently, because even after my dad was kidnapped, we heard stories of people who were kidnapped, ransom paid, and they still never let them go. So I'm so grateful that they let him go. But I wish that Nigeria was a different place. I wish this was not a conversation we had to have. Imagine if Nigeria was working. Imagine if Nigeria was the country she's supposed to be. Because Nigeria has so much potential, not just in money, not just in natural resources, but in people resources. When my father came home, the first thing he told the people at home was, "Chol one bottle of Gouda." As in, get me one bottle of Gouda. He said, because these people did not give him Gouda while they kidnapped him. Now the kind of person my dad is, he's not a serious person. He's always making jokes. He laughs about everything. He makes jokes about everything. And clearly the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But help me to thank God, because I am truly grateful. With everything that went down, I and the rest of my dad's nieces, nephews were like, please don't. Why don't you cancel this chieftaincy thing? That maybe this is what is. My dad said, hi, Mbanu. I've spent so much money already. Such an evil man. And he went through with it. My dad has this attitude of God is in control and nothing will happen unless he wills it to happen. And I agree. But as his daughter, who was thousands of miles away, I was afraid. I was very afraid. I also did not go for the chieftaincy thing. I thought at some point I would go, but I didn't go. And Nigeria, I love Nigeria. I enjoy going to Nigeria. But that experience, although not mine directly, was such a harrowing experience. Anytime I hear now someone's been kidnapped, I have a soft place for them. For the family members, because I know what it feels like to not know what's going on with your person. For some strangers to literally take your person, and it's almost like they have his life in their hands to do it as they want. Small boys. Oh God. Anyways, help me to thank God. That is the whole point of this video. Truly, help me to say a big thank you to God that this did not end a different way. Yeah, we lost money, but you can always make money back. My dad is alive. He's well. I still have to warn him because he doesn't listen. He has coconut head. So I still have to warn him every now and then. Like, sir, you need to stop going out. Don't be outside when it's dark. When he was kidnapped, it was around 8 p.m. So I'm like, don't be outside when it's dark. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe. I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm really trying to get to 1,000. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share. And also in the description, I have the link to my monthly newsletter. Listen, come closer. This is the newsletter you didn't know you needed to receive. Okay? So if you're not subscribed, the link is below. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.